everybody. Welcome to When Calls the Hallmarkies. And this is the show where we like to talk about When Calls the Heart. And today we are recapping episodes 2 and 3 of season 11. So much fun. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Mary Richards is here.
Hello.
And how are you doing?
Team Hickam. No, just kidding. I'm fine.
Make them to make them. Team make them.
Make them.
Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about these two episodes.
Yeah. Well, particularly I think the third episode was the stronger of the two.
Yes.
I don't know. You agree. But yeah, it was kind of funny because the second episode I was getting a little bit bored. It's like, okay, like, and and so I just started like doing random Google searches. And I learned about the history of grilled cheese. I learned about the history of peanut butter and jelly, and the history of balloons, party balloons.
Oh, I see.
All this stuff.
And does it fit in with our supposed timeline of this historical?
Yeah, actually, all of them at least were pretty close.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I also looked up the history of daycare centers.
I also had these questions.
I mean, we obviously know that When Calls the Heart is not concerned with historical accuracy, but sometimes when you're bored, it's interesting to look back on the history of sort of random things, like when did the grilled cheese first start making things like that. I think that's kind of fun.
Oh, for sure. And sometimes are you surprised that they actually have a connection to like a World's Fair or something?
Yeah.
Like the ice cream cone was, or this or that, and you're like,
yeah.
Oh. But I know exactly how you feel, because I kept turning to my husband. I'm like, did that really happen then, do you think? And he's like, it's a show. Just enjoy the show.
Yeah. Well, episode 2 is called Tomorrow Never Knows, which I don't even understand.
Very James Bond-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really
Tomorrow never dies.
Elizabeth and Allie plan a birthday party for Nathan. Leah and Rosemary weigh business responsibilities against family time, and Lucas settles into his role as governor. So do you agree with me that this one was kind of dry?
Well, like Rosemary says, I keep a calendar of birthdays in case of a slow news day. This was kind of a slow episode. Yeah, it was a bit slower. But
yeah.
Side note, that is definitely a thing journalists do. What this day in history, birthday. So you're like, a story. Excellent. I can scrape something together. But yeah, it was the overall, yeah, there's just that we're dragged back into looking at each other and will this or won't this happen, and and other things, and nothing really happening with this investigation. So yeah, it was a little bit slower.
Yeah. And like every kiss does not have to be a near kiss. Oh my gosh. These 2 episodes, I was just like,
especially for May and Hickam. Yeah. I mean, I've already expressed
they're supposedly dated for 5 months.
5 months, and he blushes when she kisses him on the cheek. What have they been doing? Is this like Amish, like, I don't know. I mean, now I did remember that in These Happy Golden Years, isn't it, with Laura Ingalls Wilder? He was driving her for 3 years. They go on buggy rides, and then he proposes, and she says, "You make it you like." So right. Okay,
yes. I mean, if they were following traditional courtship rules, then they would always have a chaperone, and they would always have to.
There would be some propriety, but then you have like Elizabeth and Lucas last season, sucking face, it's like poor Hickam.
Yeah. And so it's just like, and there's a side of me that's like, does Kevin McGarry have something new in his contract where he can't like kiss women? Like, what is going on? Like, how can he be on the show this long
and not ever have kissed? So Fred Astaire had 10 movies with Ginger Rogers, and I feel like they only kissed in one of them.
Yeah.
But he did say, and I always thought it was because he was this family man. It was just a beautiful thing. But they danced. I mean, that was like, wow, so
yeah.
So it's just different. So now I'm a prude. I don't need to see anything else besides just a sweet kiss, but come on.
I don't know. I'm just kidding. Like, Come on.
Come on.
But we have it starts out with Rosemary being pretty stressed about the leaks and other things happening over at the Benson Beetle. And Robert is watching both Goldie and Little Jack, which seems like a lot.
It does. I mean, is Robert like, how old is he? I have a 16-year-old and it can get overwhelming
Yeah.
to watch younger kids,
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
time, like long
Yeah.
work day time.
Yeah. It would
We
be a
don't do that.
it would be especially hard in that era watching a toddler. I mean, just you think like changing and all that stuff would be way harder than it is now.
Yes.
And even like heating up I don't know if it would Goldie would at this point would still be on bottle, but
Those
but
things take time. Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of work.
It is like, I mean, and I know throughout time, older siblings have been caretakers for younger siblings and they don't get to go to school or work or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing, I just really had to set it aside because I thought there's so much back then that took longer. And
Yeah,
that's why women often were
cleaning.
working. You had to heat up water for hours to do your laundry, and then you had to scrub it
Yeah,
by hand. You had to make bread every day. You had to go,
right.
garden. There was so much that took a long time
Yeah. It's
that,
true. In fact, I don't even know if formula had actually been invented at that point.
oh yeah, another
Maybe.
thing to Google. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing to Google. And so he wouldn't be doing bottles, I guess. But
Unless it was
um,
just a cow's milk,
yeah, yeah.
watered down sugar water thing for a baby.
I remember my grandma saying that they were told when she was having babies that to put milk in Caro syrup,
Hmm.
which
I
just
had heard
seems
that.
wild.
I know. And unless Robert's bringing Goldie in for nursing every 2, 3 hours, I'm not sure how old Goldie is right now. I'm so lost
Because
in
they
the.
had a jump. I
They did
forget.
jump forward. Yeah,
Yeah, they jumped forward. Is she a year old?
maybe she is.
Something
Yeah,
like
she could
that.
be
Yeah.
fine on some. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bill comes up to May and Hickam and says, "How are the newlyweds doing?"
Oh
And
my
this like
God.
completely throws them through. Like they can't believe it.
It flusters them so much.
Yeah.
That's like a not a dad thing to do, but like a meddling mom thing to do. That's like trying
Yeah.
to like get her kids married, and that's awful, awful. I do not recommend that.
Yeah.
And
But
maybe
I don't
he's
know. I feel like they would just be kind of like, yeah,
you're fine, ha, you're funny, Bill. But it
right. But
flusters them so
it
much.
really does.
May especially, she gets all skittish and non-committal and starts like riding around in circles on the bike, like gotta go.
Mhm. Yeah. So we also have this kid named Toby who is memorizing the math problems.
Yeah.
And they kind of get that into that even more in the next episode. But yeah, they kind of present it as if he's cheating, but he's not really
I think,
cheating. He's just
yeah,
not learning the skill.
he's not learning how to do the math. He's thinking, oh, just like memorizing capitals of
Yeah,
Canadian
geography.
provinces and geography, I can memorize the answer to number one is five. I'm not realizing that math problems change.
Right.
That's how I took it as, because at first I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Do not cheat, especially not with a pastor's son. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he was just not understanding math and trying to find a shortcut.
Yeah. And I can relate to that because I've always been terrible at math.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible math. That is not my thing.
Yeah, in fact, there are many times that I'm Googling, even with my fourth son, you think I would understand fractions. So I hear you, Toby. But my fourth son's in fifth grade, and he was like, how
Yeah.
do we multiply fractions? And I'm like, we're either going to call your older brother in high school who loves math, or we're going to Google this right now because I can't remember.
Yeah.
Then it all worked out. And I was
And
like, oh, yeah. And it came back to me.
yeah, and I think education's kind of a tricky thing because like you want to push students into things that are hard for them and uncomfortable. And you certainly want them to learn these basic skills and everything like that. But then on the other hand, like you can only force certain people to kind of be somebody that they're not for so long, like, I mean, I was just never going to be like a whiz at math. That was just not, that was a waste a lot of that I think was a sort of a waste of my time, because
Yeah.
that's just not something that I needed, and it's
Yeah.
like, so should we, like, yes, I needed it in the sense to like learn how to make my brain grow and
Mm.
develop new skills. I understand that.
Ho, ho, ho. We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
On the other hand, it's like you want to also just sort of be using somebody for what they're actually good at, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, and even a broader perspective of that is Mike Rowe telling many, many people you're going to these 4-year liberal arts institutions when you should be going to trade school and learning something where you really are doing exactly what you're good at, and instead of being like, I don't need to know about Plato and Aristotle. Maybe you do. There's also that there, like you said, there's also that learning for learning's sake. But sometimes it's like, I haven't used finding a cosine since 12th grade,
Yeah.
But I multiply fractions, even though I didn't realize it, when I was trying to 1.5 times a baking recipe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's how you do it. So I did appreciate how Elizabeth points out to him in the 3rd episode, he just figured out math in a real life situation and not knowing it was math. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, we've been Jackson and I have been watching this show from the 80s called Square Pegs with Sarah Jessica Parker. And I saw an interview with her, and she was talking about that, some people say, oh, were you like deprived because you don't have traditional education, stuff like that. And she's like, no, I was never an academic. That was just not me. I was way happier, performing and singing, and that's where, and I think that is true for a lot of people, is that, like, and especially I think boys, a lot of them are just not built to be sitting for 8 hours every day.
Yes.
It's just not in their nature, and that's what we expect them to do.
We do. That's right. And I especially remember the 1st or 2nd grade teacher of my 3rd boy being like, why can't Andrew be more like Violet? I'm like, because Violet's a cute little shy girl who loves to sit in her seat and color really well. And he just needs to get out some of this energy.
Yeah.
They're just different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it was interesting new character to have this Toby.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's have that dynamic of her teaching and finding a new challenge with a student. And yeah.
How do you in general feel about surprise parties? Are you pro or con?
They make me anxious, and I don't want to like fall onto that, because I don't like labels, and like people falling on a crutch but they do. I just get worried about them, because I want to make sure. I'm such a people pleaser. I want to make sure if I'm the one being surprised that I have the right level of appreciation. So I'd rather know about it before.
I would too, because I feel like part of the fun of it is the entertaining part of it, is the planning and making things look cute, and what am I gonna make, and what's the cake gonna look like, and like I feel like that's part of it. If somebody did throw me a surprise party, I'd be like, oh, that was so sweet, so nice. But like, I'm just saying in general, I don't think that the joy is ever really that enhanced by it being a surprise. In fact, sometimes it's less joy because you don't get to be involved in the whole process of it.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're stressed, you're surprised, you're and sometimes not in a good way. And yeah, and the planning is, yeah, especially what if you had big opinions and then you're like, this is not what I would have done at all, you know?
Yeah. And so Nathan thinks that he's getting a surprise party, but then they're like, oh well, we weren't going to give you a surprise party, so then that way we need to plan it. It just gets all kinds of madness.
It was so confusing about the communication.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even clearly talk about it because it was like, oh, hint, hint, wink, wink. And like, no, I'm just trying to get the answer here, you know?
Yeah, because he's like, oh, so you're taking me fishing, and then Elizabeth later on is like, oh, you're all going fishing, and then Allie's like, what is happening? Like, what?
We were.
Yeah.
I felt
Wink,
just
wink.
felt awkward. I know the whole time I'm like, oh no. I kept getting worried that somebody was going to be disappointed in the end, either the planners or the surprisers, the surprisee. And I just wanted to be like, start from scratch. Are we doing this? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so in the meantime, Hickam is just crushing it, running the what do they call it?
The Queen of Hearts, or the
Queen of Hearts. Yeah, Queen of Hearts.
Yeah.
The saloon / hotel.
Yeah.
He's doing a great job.
Bar. He's a manager of all managers. He's amazing.
Yes, and he has started to sell grilled cheese sandwiches, big sellers, which it infuriates Gustav.
Yes, you hear him yelling from the kitchen where he's being held hostage at one point.
Yeah, exactly. Gustav, the indentured servant, who's had to leave the salon. But yeah, grilled cheese. And evidently from my research that I did, they became popular in the 1920s. So it was like right around there.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, and I've heard of, in like some of these like Regency era books that I cannot put down, that people used to toast bread and cheese together over a fire, and it would kind of toast the bread.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but a grilled cheese, we all know, has its own intricacies and delicacies.
Yeah. That makes me remind. Have you ever read the book Mrs. Mike?
No.
It's a really good book, but it's also kind of sad. So be ready.
Okay.
But
thank you. You know me. I'd like to know that.
Yeah. But it's really good. About this woman who it's like set around that time period, and she marries this like not a Mountie, but like a Alaskan frontiersman guy. Anyway, and there's just this great scene. It just made me think of it when she goes. She thinks she's had it with all the sadness and the other things that she's had to deal with in Alaska, and she goes back to her stuffy, home in like Boston or wherever, and everybody's getting all upset about the toast being burnt or not, cooked right, and getting all, and she's just like, I can't take this. Like,
don't have real problems.
Back in Alaska, we would have been grateful for the toast,
Oh, and, I have that on my list. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's a really good book. People should. I bet Hardy's would really like it. Yeah. But anyway, it kind of made me think of that.
You're like, side note.
Kidding me? But yeah. So I mean, and it does make sense to do grilled cheese because that is, if you can find in your like restaurant or whatever a way to make meals without meat or with eggs, like that is a huge moneymaker. They will really sell well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some gourmet, like my sister used to make the best grilled cheeses when we were just kids. Like your base, like wrapped. I don't know. I think I was too skimpy with the butter on the outside, and she would just really lather it so it really got nice. But do you know what I've tried lately, by the way? Also, another side note, I've been putting mayonnaise on the bread instead of butter to grill it. And that kind of oil makes it's
kind of salty.
Yeah, it's kind of good.
Yeah, so, that does sound good. Yeah, I mean, the key for grilled cheese is that so often it's not you don't get that nice pull, stretchy. And in fact, that's one of the things I never order the sandwiches at Zupa's. They're never melted enough.
Yeah,
ever.
Yeah. I saw a tweet once that reminded me that the art of making a grilled cheese is accidentally burning the first side and then nervously watching the second side.
Right.
So, like,
That's true.
well, like at Zupas, yeah, maybe they're like, oh, we didn't do it enough. Here you go. You know.
Yeah, it's just they're not grilled enough. They're
So
not
Hickam and Gustav must have
easy enough.
found the sweet spot.
Yeah.
For this.
Randall Rockwell,
Yeah.
a Benson Hills beadle, he gets the scoop of this shooter's confessional. And Rosemary's so upset. And Ned's like, maybe you should get a source. And she's like, I want a source. Like, what?
I did. I really enjoyed that scene. That did.
Yeah.
She was so mad about getting scooped. Oh, yeah. And I thought it was the Beagle because that sounds more like to me like a newspaper, but it is Beetle, the Benson Hills Beetle.
Yeah.
I think I turned on subtitles and just about names of newspapers.
Oh, Beagle. Is it Beagle?
I thought it was, but I think
it might. That would make more sense.
Yeah, the Beagle sounds like a newspaper to me.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
But I think it's the Beetle. Anyway, in fact, I have Google. I'll just look that up while you tell me more about it. But yeah,
Rosemary's had a rough day. She's struggling because Lee keeps forgetting their dates. They have a breakfast date, and then they reschedule it for a lunch date, and he keeps forgetting. And what do you think that was cause for Rosemary to be upset?
Yes and no. I guess we're just seeing a little glimpse of it. I'm thinking about how in my own marriage, we're like trying to be understanding of each other's workflows, and we're like, but we also communicate better. But then again, we also can text each other. They couldn't in this big town. Like,
yeah,
Rosemary, just yell it into the street. She does have right to be upset if he keeps forgetting in this pattern and not communicating with her. Oh, and then she can be like, oh, of course, I'm trying to support you. You're trying to support me. Let's find a new time. But if he keeps forgetting, then that kind of sets it up then for her being concerned about him being so busy that can he buy the saloon, It sets up that pattern.
Yeah. And she says, I believe it is you who are not listening.
Yeah.
And I think that, I guess the thing that I would say if I was giving advice to Rosemary is I would say, why don't you bring the lunch to him?
Yeah.
Like, why don't you find some sort of middle common ground, that, because you can only change people so much. And that includes like different phases, people will have different phases where they're more overwhelmed than others.
Yes.
And then other times when things are a little bit lighter. And so that would have been really cute if she was like, oh, surprise, we're having breakfast here.
Yes, I recognize that you're busy and I want to spend time with you. And I know you do. Let's have some breakfast here. Especially I wonder about the ebb and flow of his work in the lumber mill and all those things. Like my friend who's an accountant, whose husband is an accountant. And this could work the other way too, if she was the accountant. They just know that there's certain weeks of the year they're just busy, and you can't be like, you're not listening to me. You're busy.
Yeah.
Or if he's, is he just habitually having these, issues of forgetfulness? Then that would have been cute, like to have her lunch to him or a breakfast.
Well, and you also have to just think there's things that we think we really want in a partner. Like people always say, oh, I want to marry somebody who's really ambitious. Do you really? Do you really want to marry someone who's really ambitious?
This is going to come with being ambitious.
Yeah. If you did, then you probably won't see him that much. And you just have to be happy with with what you get, because ambitious people are really busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my friend whose husband is way into sports, and she's kind of complaining that he's watching games. I'm like, do you remember that story about the man who took the snake into his tent?
Yes.
The snake bit him. You knew what I was when you picked me up.
Yes, I use this all the time. It's true, though. Like, you're not going to, like, you can obviously grow and evolve as a couple, and you should,
of course,
but you're not going to change who they are.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yep.
You can refine it a little bit. You can sand it down. That's about it.
And that's true. You can sand it down. I love that thought. She's with Lee, like, sand it down a little bit. Those rough edges. Because she's the power. She can make, and he loves her so much that he's going to try to help her feel
Yeah.
more secure and listened to. And
But then, like, it also, I mean, he probably shouldn't have agreed to do the lunch date to begin with.
yeah,
If he didn't have time for the breakfast date, then he probably wasn't going to have time for the lunch date. So he probably should have just said, he
yeah,
probably should have just committed to something he knew 100% for sure
yes,
he was going
yes.
to
Like,
be able
hey,
to
I
do.
can do this. Not like, oh yeah, let me
Yeah.
that hemming and hawing of, oh sure, yeah,
Yeah, like, let's go over to the pharmacy and get us an ice cream.
Mhm.
That I know I can do
I can do
today.
that. Yeah.
But anyway, he says, my wife is an unwavering force of nature,
Yeah,
which was
that
cute.
was good. Well, there was another good line when she was mad at Lee. Is it a good reason? It had better be better than good. It had better be brilliant, is what she said.
Yeah.
There were a lot of B's in it. Better be better than good. It better be brilliant for his
Mm-hmm.
good reason.
Yeah. He's been going over the books, Lucas's books for the saloon. He's considering buying it.
Mhm.
And of course that concerns Rosemary.
Yeah.
And then Rosemary is also upset about, again, this scoop, and she just feels like there's more to the story. And I did love these interactions between Bill and Rosemary.
Oh, they were
That was
so
really fun.
good.
Yeah.
That did save this episode for me. Those
Yeah.
kinds that she's just so sharp as attack on him, and he's just like trying to like dodge, and
Yeah, it
question.
reminds me of that. It was like, this is your office. Why are you leaving your
Yes.
office? And
Yeah.
he says,
Like, I gotta go.
are you friend Rosemary or reporter Rosemary?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, that's for her, she's like, it's the same. And he's like, no, they're like two different things here.
Yeah, so they're trying to figure out, because the story just isn't adding up. They know there's more to it with Pike and the shit. And I liked it when Rosemary's like, the attempted murderer of our good friend is out there, and we need to find them, and that it's not just about her ego.
That's true, because it has been, good point. It has been about her feeling like she's getting scooped and wanting the story. But deep down, she's saying, this is our friend. And if there's a murderer still out there, we have to do all we can. And so that's where that frustration is coming with Bill. Like, why aren't, what's happening? Why don't we have the answers?
Mm-hmm. I did really like when Lee sets up the murder board for Rosemary. Because that was, again, that's being thoughtful. That's because it's not really about the date. It's not about breakfast. It's about her, feeling frustrated. So to me, that actually shows like he is really listening. And that was like a very like helpful, concrete, solid thing to do to show that. And I thought that was cute.
That was cute. And they're looking at it, and yeah,
I love a good murder board.
I know. You really just see it all out there. It combines my love of Hallmark with my love of police dramas.
Yeah.
Like investigation work. Excellent. It's all spread out on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we have Gowen, and he was really cute. And he's tending to Abigail's trees or hazelnut trees.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Elizabeth says, how was Abigail? Oh, she's better than great. She's the best.
His face lights up.
So, yeah. So there we go. And the interaction between Gowen and Lily was just the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, was so cute. Kudos to them to bring on that sweet little girl and recognizing that he has that kind of rapport with little children. And
he really does. I mean, you think back to that movie with the orphans, the Christmas movie.
Oh yeah.
He's reading. That was so cute.
I know. I love that. I think especially in this town where so many fathers, and we've moved many years past that, but when so many fathers were lost in the beginning, to have these, older good leader figures in their lives, and it's just cute. It's just cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So things seem to be going pretty well for Faith and Lily. She's definitely a little overwhelmed to see the next episode, but she makes her a peanut butter and jam sandwich.
Yeah, which you found out it's
Yes, I found out was invented in 1901. So we're good.
apropos.
Clear.
Good. Sorted.
But it's interesting because obviously it would be the same similar in Canada, but like my experience is that we eat way more peanut butter in the United States than they do in, at least compared to my friends in Europe.
Mhm.
Don't eat nearly as much peanut butter as we do.
I think they sell it in smaller containers where we
Yeah.
go to Costco in the double packs like
Right.
this big, like every other week, I swear.
Yeah.
It's like a childhood staple, you know. That's curious that they don't have it as much in other
Yeah.
countries we do.
I mean, are you a crunchy or creamy girl?
Oh, you know, okay. So creamy for my protein shakes my husband makes in the morning, and then crunchy on a sandwich, I think gives it a nice.
Yeah.
What about you? It's like
Definitely crunchy. I mean,
Yeah.
I agree in like recipes and stuff,
Yeah,
you want to use
yeah.
the creamy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, the crunchy.
feels like you're really eating a nut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good flavor.
Oh yeah,
And it doesn't get stuck to the top of your tongue either.
that's the worst. Yeah,
But I love peanut butter and jelly. It's
Mhm.
so good. That combination. Mm.
Oh yeah.
Yum.
Oh yeah, we
Yeah.
get jam and big things too at my house.
Mhm.
And then I was thinking too, like we have factory sliced bread nowadays, but you know, in this time with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you'd be trying to cut. You could have like two different
Oh, that's
sizes.
true.
You have a thick.
That's
slice.
true.
It could be like pretty hard to do, like wheat bread. You know, I
Yeah.
must have been hungry while I watched this episode.
Yeah, I think I was too.
Embark on a delightful journey with the Romance of Rings series by award-winning author Esther Hatch. Discover a world where sweet historical romance meets laugh-out-loud comedy. The first book, Manor for Sale, Baron Included, is free on Kindle from April 25th to 29th. Grab it so you can enjoy Lord Farnsworth's bumbling attempts at wooing the wealthy new owner of his mother's estate. Don't miss the newest release in the series, There Goes the Groom, which is already being hailed as a new favorite Esther Hatch novel. Find out more on this and all of Esther's books at estherhatch.com. That's ESTHERHATCH.com, or use the affiliate link below.
So May is just getting very depressed and stressed. And she says, he's so kind and funny, but I'm finding myself pulling back, and he sees that. And then I think it was Minnie says, it's scary when things get serious. It's easy to feel afraid.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like we're going to get a proposal real soon.
Yeah. I
Don't
mean,
you think?
I would hope so.
I know.
Calling them newlyweds, it's really getting the cogs turning in
Yeah.
Hickman's mind. And it's almost like May's having these, like, as we've called them, the DTR, the define the relationship conversations. Like she's needing to like figure that out for herself before then she can talk to Hickam about it. Like, okay, here's me, here's where I'm coming from. This is why I'm skittish. What is this that we're doing? Does it have a permanent future?
Yeah.
Or are we kind of having fun? You know, that kind of thing probably needs to be discussed.
Because she says it's been 5 months.
5 months.
That's a long time.
By
Especially
then,
in this day and age, it was a long time.
Yeah. By then I'd had many a DTR. I'm
Yes.
like, 3 dates. Okay, we doing this or not? Like, are we
Especially because they're like older. I mean, what do you figure? Make Hickam in May? They're what, 35?
Yeah, and especially in frontier town, you want to get
Yeah. So I did think it was really funny when Nathan comes into the store and to the general store, and he's getting some eggs and stuff, and it flows like, there's a party? Why wasn't I invited to the party? That was funny.
Oh my goodness. For sure she'd be upset, you know. Hey, it's me. Tell me about this party.
Yeah, I like that. That was funny.
That was fun. Then it's just like snowballing, you know, like, well, that's a town thing now, you know.
Yeah. Well, so then the party ends up happening, and I was just curious because they had like helium balloons. So this was interesting that I guess the first latex balloon was invented in 1824. but they didn't
Okay.
really have them in parties until like the 30s. 1922 became a key year in balloon history. People that's when the hydrogen balloons were like blowing up and causing problems. And so in 1922, that's when they started producing safe helium.
Oh.
It says this inert gas is absolutely harmless and cannot ignite or explode under any circumstances. And then in 1931, I guess when the balloon that we know was invented.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Ah.
So yeah. The balloons today that balloon suppliers sell up to 50 million balloons each year.
Wow. I mean, it's all over Instagram. Anytime anybody has anything, there's a huge balloon archway,
Yeah.
And
it was so funny when you're because once you get to be an adult, like it's so hard to think of things to get people for birthdays and stuff like that. And I have a brother that's 16 years younger than me, and we were having a family birthday party for him. And what do you get? I have no idea. This like college age, kid. I have no idea what to get him. And so I was like, oh, if it's kind of, why don't I get him a thing of balloons just to be like, hi, I'm like gonna be, cute, whatever.
Feel special.
Anyway, yeah. And so I get this balloons and a card and whatever. And I come up and literally everybody had thought the same thing that I had thought. There were so many balloons. It was so funny because I'm just like, who thinks of balloons for
and why did
Sam?
everybody think of it at the same time?
It was really funny. Oh, I don't know. People are funny. But I honestly could have used even more of this scene with Allie and Nathan's fishing. And I thought it was really sweet.
Mm-hmm. I know. I love their relationship. I'd be curious to see if other Hardys feel the same way, or if this is just me being really weird. That I just keep remembering that he's her uncle, but she calls him dad because of the official adoption.
Mm-hmm.
But could a teenager swap like that, go from saying Uncle Nathan to saying dad? It just, I don't know why it's been on my mind so much, but these scenes like that, when I see them together, and there really is this paternal loving relationship there where he is so much her main caretaker and loves her so much, and it's so cute. She wants to spend time with him. I'm here for all of that. Every girl needs a dad, really. Yeah. And that's so I think I'm okay from swapping in my brain from he's her Uncle Nathan to he is a dad to her.
Yeah. And it was a nice moment too when it's like, what did my mom like parties? Did she like going to parties? Your mom was a party animal.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, she's curious and wants to know, and that's nice of him to party animal.
And so then Faith, she is reading Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm to Lily, which I thought was cute.
I need to read that because the Shirley Temple movie with the same name was not the same as the book.
So exactly. That's what I was just going to say. It's not like the book at all.
Not at all, actually. But that was cute to read out loud to her again with this sweet somebody who's stepping in to be this, loving adult and knowing what a child that age needs. That was cute.
Yeah. So they end up having the surprise party, and Rosemary says that Nathan looks happy, and I was just like, he does. And then we also get, so Rosemary tells Hickam, says that you need to put a stage in the corner of the saloon. And this is something she's been talking about from day one.
Time. She wants a stage. Get the woman a stage.
Real.
Wants one.
Yeah. And then we have that Leland says that the real investment is you in Hickam, which was sweet.
Yes, and I feel like Warren Buffett talks about that too. That's tingling in the back of my brain for some sort of business lesson with a business that is thriving and doing well. Look at the people, who's running it, who's managing it. And that was really cool that he's like, Hickam, you're the one, you're going to, because he was so nervous about, well, who buys it and what happens to me. And he's like, no, you are the whole reason, and you're going to stay and keep doing what you're doing and making this magic.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get a scene between May and Hickam. They're going to be dancing. And she says, I'm nervous and scared. You're wonderful and everything I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
That was cute.
That was really cute. I'd forgotten about her background. How short is my memory? When she came on the show, she was running from this situation where it was very concerning for her. So now I'm a little more forgiving for her hesitancy, and trying to be upfront with Hickam. That it really was it's not you, it's me kind of conversation.
It would have been nice to have gotten like a little kiss.
Oh,
there. Come on.
Like we said before, a kiss would have been very nice.
But it's cute. And then Elizabeth and Nathan, another near kiss. I'm like, here's another montage to add to the Longing Looks series.
Around on the corner, right? When they were outside, like leaning against the wall, and her pretty barrette. I did remember staring at that. Yeah. And more of the.
And I think she had like confetti in her hair or something.
Oh, maybe it's confetti. And he pulls it out. That's right.
Pulls it out.
It was very leaning, kind of, from while you were sleeping. Leaning involves wanting, whole bodies.
Yeah.
But then we hear the interruption.
Yeah. And so that is the episode. This one I'd probably give like a 7 to.
Yeah, I think I'd forgotten a lot of it because I'd watched it a week ago, and that's probably because of those kind of slower moments. So I could be there, maybe 7.
Yeah, I mean that's why I wait and watch them together because that's smart. Because I want it to be as fresh as possible.
Yeah.
Even though invariably there's always somebody in the comments that's like, "Did you even watch the episode at all?"
Yeah.
You can't talk about everything.
I know. There's a lot.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
The next episode is called Steps Forward. And this is Rosemary and Bill team up to investigate a case they believe shouldn't be closed. The women of Hope Valley start a daycare, and Hickam and May celebrate a milestone. So Hickam and May have been dating for 5 months, as we said. This 5-month anniversary. I mean, how do you feel about anniversaries? Like, I mean, I've heard of people that's like, we got to celebrate when we first started dating and our first kid. Like, it gets a lot out of control, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Like, where do you count from? Is it the first time because they haven't kissed.
Right.
The first time they actually officially had some sort of outing together.
Yeah. I mean, it's true, especially it gets complicated now with people like cohabitating. And so it's like, it gets it gets real complicated these days. But
no, for a while, like, we just remembered, my husband and I, our very first date was on June 7th. And we'd always just remembered that because it was John Stockton's retirement party at the Delta Center.
Oh, really?
In 2003.
That was your first date?
That was our first date. And so I always remember that date. And people are like, why do you remember that date? I'm like, it was so special because it was John Stockton, and there's this, and I was with a really cute guy. So we've always remembered that date. And for a while we would do something on that day, but then other anniversaries come up or other things are just life and you're just getting.
Yeah.
So it was, and I'm a fan of like even numbers. So marking 5 months was just, I don't know, it just felt
that was odd. Yeah, I agree.
Mark like 6 months,
right.
It just felt.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, you'd probably more likely do 6 months.
Yes, and for him to be like, what's coming up, and she's like, no, it was a big deal to him. So, but it felt like just a odd And
Yeah.
what date are they counting from? Just my questions.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess my parents never made much of a deal of their anniversary.
Yeah.
There's half the time they'd be like, "Oh, do you remember today's our anniversary?"
I know, especially as you get older. Like, I mean, like I said, years ago, we stopped actually marking June 7th because we started getting busy with life, like children.
Yeah.
Our wedding anniversary, in the beginning years, I think we'd do something big or like a getaway or something. And I think last year we were like, oh yeah, we should probably go to lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. And my parents have been married. They got married in 1978.
Oh, nice.
So that's pretty amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents, 1977. So yeah, and my husband and I, we hit 20 years last November, and same thing. We were like, oh, we should probably do something.
Yeah.
So we're actually going on a cruise this coming fall.
Oh, fun.
Because it was hard in November to get away. Kids
Yeah.
had basketball and and all football, all this stuff. And so
Mhm.
we're gonna go on a cruise in August. So
Oh, that'll be so fun.
it'll just be
Mhm.
almost 21st. But yeah, some people, I think the date, it's like so important to them, and you mark it and you do something amazing. And other times, other people tell me it's the little things we do all the time that just show, like maybe that's, I don't know, just find.
Mhm. Yeah. And so we have Bill going up to Capital City and like recreating the crime scene. Like,
I loved that. My husband loved that. He's like, oh, he's doing some investigation.
yeah.
Like, was he like, yes, it was like he was standing in the scene and being like, bang, bang. And then he like would time how long it took him to run there, and
CSI Hope Valley. Yeah. And he's like, somebody's lying. Somebody's
oh my
lying.
goodness. I told my
Yeah.
husband, I was like, you know that this guy used to be in soap operas. He's like, I can see that. He was
Yes.
like,
Well, and so then I mean, they all think that, of course, Montague is the actual
how could
behind
it
it
not
all.
be?
Yeah, I mean, he has motivation where this Pike guy doesn't have any motivation, but he's claiming, oh, there were 100 people that saw me at this political rally thing, and so I couldn't have been there. I couldn't have done it, and so that's where things are getting pretty messy. But of course, we know he did it because he's played by Ben Wilkinson, who's always the murderer.
Exactly. This is the bad guy.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Just a matter of when it finally comes to light.
Yeah.
How could it not be him? I mean,
Yeah.
anytime he's on, he's just so good at this role. And the music turns dark. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's clearly him.
Yeah. Well, so then we have Lucas officially selling the Queen of Hearts, and evidently, like, Leland is a pretty good barkeep. People like him.
Yes. Isn't that interesting? People like to talk to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
A while back, I asked on my Twitter, just because I was curious, if that whole idea of sort of the philosopher, psychiatrist, bartender is like real. You always see it in the movies, because obviously
all the time.
I've never, so yeah, I would have no idea. But and I did get quite a lot of people were like, no, that's kind of played up, but then there were a few people who were like, no, it happens. It does happen. Probably especially a place like Queen of Hearts.
Loosen up and have a listening, kind ear who's
Mm-hmm.
sitting there with a rag thrown over his shoulder and wiping stuff down. It's just like.
There's a great book it's by Ray Oldenburg, called The Great Good Place. And it's a sociology book, but it was written in the like early, I think it was like 2000. So it's a bit old, but anyway, it's this book about the idea that every human being needs a third place. You have your home, you have your work, and you have your third place.
And everybody knows your name. Like, geez.
Yeah, exactly. Whether it's a bookstore, cafe, sometimes church. But like, I think church is a hard third place because, at least in our faith, it's not always available. Like, it's not like you can just go in.
Oh, right. It's at set times.
Yeah. It's set.
Showing up.
Yeah. Where, like, I think an ideal third place is some place that you can kind of always go to for companionship, or most of the time. And it's interesting because for a long time, at least, a lot of the Starbucks mission and language was rooted in the language of the third place. A good place, a place that, so they're trying to kind of create that like feel of the community coffee shop, where people would come and know and know everything that but obviously make it this commercial establishment. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, definitely for Hope Valley, I mean, the Queen of Hearts is the third place.
It really is more than Mimi's Cafe of any
Yeah.
place. It seems like that's always where they are. They're sitting at the tables, they're talking. It's almost like not even a town hall, because that's more stodgy, but like they're always there. It's that's a great way to think about it.
It's a really interesting book. And another really interesting book, if people are interested in sociology, it's called Bowling Alone. It was written right around the same time as The Great Good Place. And the idea is that over the course of the last like 50 years, we've, instead of forming into groups, like you look at all the major groups, the Masons, the Oddfellows, the people like clubs, community civic, they're all struggling. They're all and so people are, instead of bowling in a league, they're bowling alone. And how that's impacting like every part of our society. And of course, in Hope Valley, you don't do much alone. It's but it's an interesting thing. I mean, that kind of need for community, and can the online experience, can that actually be a satisfying substitute for
in-person gathering?
And I think that we kind of learned that through the pandemic that a little bit, but not all.
Exactly. They would tell my teenagers, oh, it's just fine to be online school because you're still talking and chatting with your classmates. No, they needed to be together in person, face to face. This kind of builds on what we were talking about last episode with that loneliness, right? Even and for Faith, even being around people, she was lonely. But there's this idea I love of faith groups that, or any kind of group where you are together and then really caring about other people, not transactional relationships like you were bringing up this past week too, and we were talking offline, but that I'm here for you, you're here for me, we're checking in on each other, we're talking to each other, all the time, not just for a specific reason, but just because of that shared love of humanity and togetherness and community. Well,
it's like when Lucas says that people linger because you always bend an ear.
Yes, he cares. And it's not just to make more money, like buy another drink. It's because he cares. What a great character.
So we also have Angela and Cooper getting and they're fighting. They are not getting along.
It was so funny. He was like shoving her books and she's shoving his, and they really weren't getting along. And part of me loved this whole thing because my two boys that clashed the most always tell me, I'm tired of you trying to be like this counselor therapist. I'm like, but it works. When their parents said, let's pinpoint what it is. What is it underneath this fighting that's really concerning you? Then it resolved. They miss each other. They're siblings and they want to, and he's like, and this doesn't seem to happen in my own family, but them vocalizing it, I miss you. You're off and off with, so-and-so, and I don't see you much, and I want to be with you. Like, that is so sweet. Doesn't work with my boys.
And I was also a little bit confused though. Did she purposely give the baseball to the dog was that an accident or was that intentional?
I don't know.
It seemed like it was a little intentional. I was like, oh, okay, he has a right to be a little upset. You destroyed his thing.
That's true. Was that a ploy for attention? But deep down, she's like, "Oh, I act."
And I do appreciate that they have done a pretty good job of treating Angela just like any other teen character.
She's a regular teenager. She's got tasks. She's got duties. She's got things to do, and she's a regular part of the family. It's well done.
So that was a nice little B plot. And then we have it was a cute moment with Hickam and May when they at least their hands touched. It was like a little like, oh,
I would have
was
expected
cute.
that at week 1 of their dating, but that's okay. That was cute.
Mhm.
We could take that at 5 months in. Cute.
And so the townspeople are getting a little upset because Lucas isn't like listening to them the way that they'd hoped, and particularly this one farmer with the groundhogs.
Yeah, he's worried about what's happening with these plans and are, and is that so interesting,
Mhm.
this idea of we know what's best for the community, but wait a minute, these are some of the side effects. So doesn't he go to the Benson Hills Beetle to tell
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
say, voice his opinion? And
Well, and so then, Rosemary, she's talking to all these people too, and Leland is like, "Well, I don't think you should publish that. It's and she's like, "What? They're concerned business owners,
yeah,
and we have to, even if it makes our friend look bad, we still have to do it."
the objective, yeah, that's a
Mm-hmm.
hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you have your own opinion, which you shouldn't have as a journalist, about where this should go or where this should end up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I tell you that if I were Lucas, I would get Gowen on this immediately. Like,
there's a job for him.
who
Yeah.
would be better than? I mean, I guess he did ask Gowen to work with him, but who would be better at dealing with all of these town concerns? I mean, like he would have just the right mixture of you're being an idiot, leave me alone, and like,
Versus,
okay, this is valid, like this is
yes.
a concern, like I feel like you would get that perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so we have Lily. She's getting into trouble. She's it's causing some problems, and so they're trying to figure out what to do, and they decide to open this daycare center. And in my research, the history of daycare, 1854, was the first daycare center in America, and the first kindergarten was in 1890.
Wow.
So, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so curious about that. I thought, would they have had a daycare kind of thing? And
I mean, I guess it makes sense when you have people, working in the factory, the industrialization, is coming. That would have been 1854. That would have been, I think, that's like the Civil War. So then, like right after that, going forward, would have been Reconstruction and industrialization. So it makes sense why you would end up having daycare.
You would need a caretaker for your child because you're out to, well, and especially in Hope Valley where our doctor is a woman, or all these they're all mothers or caretakers, so they, even with taking all the things that have to be done every day to run a home into account, and childcare is one of them. And that was the cutest scene though, when they all turn and look at Gowen in the cafe and Lily goes up and she's like smiling at him. She's
Yeah.
Like, thinking of, so I know a building, I know a room. And he's like, what?
Yeah, it was really cute. I mean, Gowen, this was a great Gowen episode because this is where he actually reads to Lily. That was really and again, he's just really good with kids, and I guess he still like owns a lot of property. I mean, I didn't realize that he still did.
Looks like a bum around town, but I'm with nothing to do. But yeah, I guess he does.
So, what do we think of this whole scene with Elizabeth with Scout and Plain, and Nathan walks in without his shirt on?
Oh my gosh. I think I turned bright red because my husband watches it with me, and I told you I'm a bit of a prude, but like, I mean, I might have been.
The longing look montages are gonna go crazy. I mean, we're just gonna see nothing.
We now have the new title frame for the longing look montage. This one, I was like, how? This is almost like Lifetime like stuff here. What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I thought, wait, what is that? They had to throw that in there. But then I thought of my neighbor, and she was probably like, I love this. So I don't know why they had to put that in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it was. That was really cute.
speaking of being flustered and everything, that definitely did that for Elizabeth. Wow.
Yeah.
Goodness. I don't know who just walks in on number one and to just, well, I guess no, was it his office? Yeah, she just walked.
He was in his office playing with Scout.
Yeah.
And
We've come a long way from season 1 of this show, where that never would have happened with Jack. Like he was always
that's true. And then this whole thing with Rosemary interviewing Montague, and I liked having Bill on the line, and she's like, I know how to do an interview. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Yes. And that was so interesting. He's like, lean into this, or whatever. Oh, give me all the Bill and Rosemary scenes on this investigation.
Yeah. I like them together. They're
giving
fun
me
team.
Castle vibes. Yeah, it's giving me, I don't know, I'm loving that.
Yeah, I do. I agree.
And he's like, gets super angry by the end.
So then we get this scene with Toby that he's made this bridge for the model. He's done a great job, but he just is not getting math. It's not clicking for him. And he says, is there something wrong with me?
Yeah.
And
bridge, that's math to me.
Yeah.
Spatial.
I mean, that can be the problem with trying to wedge every human into the same 5 categories that everyone has to excel at the same things. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I thought that. I was like, he made that beautiful bridge. This young man is smart, and his brain is just looking at it in a different way. And so, and then what did Elizabeth say? Okay, well, if you don't want to do math, then how about you read 20 pages tonight instead of 10? And he goes, that's twice as much. And she's like, math.
Yeah, that was cute.
Loved that. I love that.
That was good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it is good. The struggle is good, but because I think you grow from that and you become a better person. But then also, I think there's a point where it's like, okay, let's see what you are actually good at, and let's focus on those things. I don't know. It has to be a blend.
Yeah. Find a way to teach you these concepts so it's not the same, well, this is how I'm teaching this class, and so you just have to do this way. How do we help see your learning strengths and how you learn in a different way, and get to a good result for you. And I feel like, and I don't know, it's interesting in this one-room schoolhouse because she's treating them sometimes all like the same age, but they're not. They have different ages and different abilities. And even people of the same age here have different learning styles.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're exactly right for Toby. Is there a way to help him? Because I'm like, don't drop out, don't give up. But are we doing this? Should we do this in a different way for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So then we have May and Hickam. They've got their cute little picnic.
Why was it by the hot springs? I want to know.
The best 5 months of my life. They're by the stream.
What does he say?
It was pretty cute.
You have a great mind and a great everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wrote that down too. That was cute.
Oh, change your shirt, Hickam. I mean, it was
and they get so close to kissing. And
another interruption.
Yeah, just like
the whole town, though. How big are these woods? And they're just right there. Come on, everybody.
Yeah. And so there's this whole debate about should they give more security to Lucas? And I'm pretty sure at this point that Edwin was the actual murderer. Don't you think he's been acting like really suspect?
Oh, so sus.
Like he doesn't want Lucas to get more security. He's being like really like touchy with Rosemary.
Rachel, have you found the answer? Are they going to give this twist? And it was him.
Yeah.
Because his entrance into the show was weird. First, he was a tourist that was mad at the kids splashing him. Then all of a sudden, he was the governor's right-hand man. And now he's like Lucas's guy who's controlling him.
Yeah, I forgot he was the splashing guy. Yeah. And I don't know. I just felt like in this episode, he was very suspect. The way he was acting, the way he was fighting with Rosemary, the way that he was so defensive. He doesn't want the investigation going forward.
Oh, it's either he knows best or he knows something.
Yeah. Oh. I think that I think it was him. I think him and Montague
We're in it.
are, and he's like, I think he's like the mole on 24. I don't know if you ever watched 24, but it was a great show.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
there was always a mole
Yep.
that that would turn on, Jack every season. And so I feel like Edwin is the mole.
Why didn't I see it? I've just been annoyed by him this whole time. Like, oh yeah, there's Edwin. But
Yeah.
what if it's interesting theory?
And so then we have the scene where Nathan's brushing Elizabeth's horse.
Yeah.
And Bill's like, what's going on here?
Why are you brushing that? Oh, just because I just wanted to.
Yeah. And you get a cute scene between Faith and Lily where she says, I could be your auntie.
That was cute. It made me
Faith.
think one of the things I loved about my assignments in Hawaii, and everybody listening who's been, they know this already, but it was just so cute to me to recognize it in real life, how so many people have aunties that they call their auntie.
Yeah.
In the kind of Tongan culture or, Hawaiian or Pacific cultures. And that idea of an physical aunt who's related to you, but also somebody who's your auntie who looks out for you, who's, bosses you around or cares for you or is cute to you or paints your nails, all those things. I can be your auntie. That was really cute.
It was cute. It was cute. And so then we have Joe telling the kids, saying, hey, like, you need to work this out. And that he has a brother, evidently, that he is not talking to.
Was that
and
a surprise to me?
I feel like we're going to see him.
Yeah.
I feel like coming up.
That's something that the show does well. All of a sudden you have this sibling that comes with trauma.
Yeah. I feel like right around like episode 7.
We're gonna have a brother come in.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And then we have so then Cooper and Angela do work it out and they forgive each other, they talk it out. Yeah. And that was very sweet.
Yeah.
It was very sweet. And then Lucas says, that he's going to figure out the solution to this whole problem. And he's not going anywhere. He's staying in Hope Valley.
In here. Yes. Yeah. Do you just feel like from episode 2, when Nathan and Elizabeth walk in and he's standing there pontificating on the stairs, and now at the end of this one, I'm staying here. And she's like,
Yeah. And we also get this whole scene with Rosemary talking to Elizabeth, saying that, that you two were never just friends. He always had eyes for you.
I know. I wrote that down too. She's like, I just want to be friends like before. And Rosemary's like, that doesn't work out. Yeah, it is not like that.
I think it's pretty rare that you can stay friends with exes. I mean, obviously, if you have kids and stuff, you have no choice.
Right.
But I don't know. I at least think it takes you need a bit of space.
For sure. Let's remind everybody that she threw herself into his arms on that bridge on the last episode of that, whatever season that was. I need Caroline. 8. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they talked about if we were to be married, and they hugged in you can't.
And she says, I want to know that he isn't hurting. I'm like, of course he's hurting. What's wrong with you? Like, don't be so stupid, Elizabeth.
I know.
Of course he's hurting.
You left him at the train station. Of course he's hurting. And you can't be just friends. It's not that way. Yeah. And now are we going to have more awkwardness because he's staying in town? And that photo op where there is just, I thought the kids were supposed to be all smiling in the photo op, but it's just them with his arm kind of awkwardly around her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the cringe. I felt so bad.
Well, and you certainly, of course, should be civil to each other. And, you know, but I just think the idea of like friends is a little much,
it is.
It's unrealistic, especially so soon. Like maybe in a couple of years, then it could kind of be more that way. But especially once both of you are in different relationships, then it's easier, I think.
Yes.
Because that's not the awkwardness. But I don't know. I just think she's being a little naive here.
So much. And Hallmark writers should know that because they write it into almost every movie of those lingering feelings still from high school 20 years later. Or there's always, it just, in real life, like
Mhm.
I had a bad breakup in college. I never wanted to see him again. And there was a time where he's like, well, we could, no, we're done. We are
Right.
out of each other's lives now.
Yeah.
It's just done. So,
Yeah, it's too hard. I know some people do pull that off, but I think that's the exception
write us
rather
if you
than the
have,
rule.
like, comment and tell us
Yeah.
if that worked for you, because I just do not see that happening.
It definitely shouldn't be the expectation, that's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I completely agree. I mean, there's
Yeah.
always the underneath, like, we almost got married. Or what if Lucas is still like, oh, And
Yeah.
she's
And
like,
I heard some people in Team Lucas on Twitter were saying, oh, like Rosemary is like anti-Lucas in this, but I don't agree. I think she's just being realistic and actually saying, like, come on, Elizabeth, like, what you're asking for is not reasonable.
She's almost always been Elizabeth's voice of reason.
Yeah. So there we go. And I don't know. She says that, oh, his affinity for surprises, but like, would it be? I don't understand why it's that big of a surprise that he's like coming to the place where he owned the property, and he's like, I mean,
yes, that's not a big surprise.
Yeah, like,
man who has connections to town lives in town.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
But there we go. That was the basic episode. This was definitely better than the previous episode. So I would give this one like an 8.
Yeah, maybe even 8.5. I liked meeting
8.5
the Beagle. So yeah.
So there we go. Let us know what you think of these episodes. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section or on Twitter. And Mary, where can people find you?
So I am on Twitter @_ Mary Richards, Instagram Mary Richards Reports, and Facebook Reporter Mary Richards.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. And make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all over social media. And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps us a lot. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have the Patreon group, which is the biggest way you can support us. And we have the merch store where we have some new Hardy's inspired merch. Very exciting. We've got a Love Me Like Joseph and Minnie design. We have a Love Me Like May and Hickam design. And we have I Love Hope Valley. So lots of fun stuff over there. And we certainly appreciate that support. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.